When did you get diagnosed?
So, it's kind of roundabout. Technically, I was diagnosed when I was 5.
Yeah.
In South Africa, because my primary school had gotten fed up with me. So they called my mother and they said, listen, you need to take your kid to a child psychologist because we're sick of him. So
enough.
she took me to, she says, like, because I don't remember most of this, but she took me to a child psychologist. They instantly diagnosed me.
Yeah.
And then they chucked me on Ritalin.
Yeah, I was on that at first. It's not very nice, is it?
My mom says it completely messed me up. Like I self-harmed and stuff. Like as a kid, I punched myself in the leg.
What were like the symptoms where they were like, yeah, you've 100% got ADHD?
My hyperactivity was through the roof, and I couldn't stop talking. I just wanted to talk about everything except schoolwork. I want to tell you about lizards. I want to tell you about the friggin' TV show I watched the other day. I want to go deep into this book I read. I was really young at the time. So my mom like followed the instructions. She's a nurse, so she followed their instructions for a while. But she said I turned into like a zombie. Yeah. Like a kid from a horror movie. So she took me off that, and then I think at 8 they were like, "Could you go and get him re-diagnosed because he still has it?"
Right. Okay.
Now, of course, we know now
you don't grow
out of it, but they were like, "He hasn't changed." So she took me back, got re-diagnosed at 8. No medication this time because she was like, "I'm not doing that again." Yeah. And then that was pretty much it, and nothing happened, and we never really talked about it at all until about 3 months ago. Yeah. When I was watching you guys and going, this all resonates way too much. And I called, I normally have a weekly call with my mother anyway.
Is she still in South Africa?
Yeah, she's in South Africa with my brothers. And I said, listen, what was that thing about me getting diagnosed as a kid for something? And she was like, oh yeah, you have ADHD.
Thanks for telling me.
Thanks, Mom. Turns out that might be because I went through a lot of other things. Like I got treated for depression for a while, and that just made things worse. And I've had doctors treat me for anxiety, and that just made things worse.
Antidepressants?
Oh, antidepressants were not my friend.
No.
And then, my mom was like, you have ADHD? Like, okay, now it's starting to make sense. Thanks, Mom. And then I was like, from all the research I've been doing, I think you have it too. She's like, yeah, probably, but I'm not going to do anything about it now. Really? Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. If it doesn't bother her, if it doesn't ruin her life, well, not ruin her life, but if it doesn't make life harder. I mean, some people can just live with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's what Perry's doing, yeah. She's fine to not get diagnosed. We know pretty much that she's...
Oh, I could have told you straight away that you had ADHD.
Really?
Yeah. You just know, don't you?
Yeah.
I think that we've got this weird kind of vibration.
Yeah, we do. We are drawn.
Drawn to others.
What? So when did you two get together?
It's almost 7 years ago now. 7 years in December.
And what problems happened in the relationship? Like, were you fine for the first couple of months? Yeah. Masking? Yeah. Trying to be this perfect person?
I think there was a bit of up and down after the first few months or so, because obviously we both come from trauma. Yeah. And that started to leak out a little bit. Yeah. And I think we did okay with it, but I think we were like, oh, we have trauma and together we'll just move forward. Yeah. As opposed to together we'll confront the trauma and actually do something about it. And then I think recently, before all the TikTok stuff, I disassociated hard. Yeah. Like I really sort of collapsed in on myself a bit. And it took some real serious conversations and support and like proper talking about it to get out of that. That was rough. It was real bad.
Like together, or did you go to like therapy or?
So together and therapy. Okay. So we're doing therapy separately, and then we're sort of bringing that back into together. The couple.
Okay, yeah. Which is good because you get two different therapists. I'm guessing it's two different therapists. Oh yeah. So you get two different therapists to take on it.
But it got to the point where we were on that, what we call the tightrope of either making a break. Yeah. Because Greg had disassociated so much and I was holding on too hard.
Yeah, you felt pushed away and he needed to just,
So we both needed to take a step back, start working on ourselves at the same time, and that we can work on each other. And now, since going the realisation of the ADHD and understanding it more, we understand each other more now in the last 3 months than we did for nearly, 6.5 years before that. Yeah,
we're actually better now than we ever were because we're starting to confront who we are as people, not just who we are as a couple.
Yeah. And I think staying together, it's understanding each other and understanding like not everyone's ADHD is the same, like yours and Perry's is completely different, but it's knowing like what's underlying and what the triggers are and stuff like that, and it's working around them and working towards like helping them triggers, isn't it? So
Because it's a thing now when things get shaky, let's say. When things get shaky, we now go, oh, that is probably an overwhelm.
Yeah.
That is probably a sensory issue, or your imposter syndrome has kicked in, or your trauma is bringing itself out because you're tired or because you've had too much work. So we're starting to understand that the reaction has a reason.
Yeah.
And instead of going, you're being a dick, we're going, hang on, why are you reacting the way you're reacting?
Yeah.
It really makes for much, much better communication between us as well.
Yeah. I mean, being tired, I know for a fact, when I'm tired, I am grumpy, I'm grouchy, I'm irritable, and it's really not helpful. I don't even think that's just people with ADHD. Like, some people can just get on with it, but I think when we are ADHD, it's like we have this brain fog. So our brain obviously is different to a neurotypical. So the front part of our brain, the amygdala, completely switches off, especially when we're overwhelmed or we're overstimulated and stuff. So that's obviously our logical thinking. So that all the neurotransmitters completely just stop going to that.
That's the thing. Like, we react at first like a neurotypical, but our recovery is so slow because our brain overloads the way it does.
And that's the problem. We do react before we think as well, which is part of the impulsiveness.
Yeah.
What's different or coming into an adulthood that was different for you as a child, if that does not make sense?
Yeah, I think you learn a lot of restraint as an adult.
Yeah.
And sometimes you learn a little too much, and the restraint itself becomes an overwhelm. It's like, I just want to let this emotion out. I just want to feel this, but this is impolite or not the right etiquette. So at least at home we can
I think you wind yourself up as well a little bit.
A bottle of Coke with the lid screwed
with a Mentos inside.
Yeah. And then when you get home, sometimes me and you, that lid comes off and it's like...
Yeah, it can be explosive. Like,
that's why I need music, because I find that music helps me process the emotion I'm feeling. So I have playlists for certain emotions.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I can just overload in myself and let it come out, and then I feel better.
Is Rage like proper heavy rock metal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a playlist called Rage Therapy that is just the angriest metal music I can find. It's a lot of
Reinstein or whatever they're called. Ramstein.
And then I've got a sad one as well, because I find that I had a coping mechanism for years that if I get sad, I need to over sad myself.
Right, okay.
So that I will force myself to feel the emotion, cry, because I always struggle to cry.
Yeah.
And then it allows me to feel the emotion and let it pass.
Yeah, crying's not a bad thing.
No.
There's a lot of people who think crying's bad, but honestly, crying like really does. It helps me massively.
Yeah.
It really does soothe you, and like it releases so much energy from your body.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, crying was Boys Don't Cry, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I named the playlist that, because I think it's funny and I like that song. But also, I find that I saw this quote once that really resonated with me, which said, "We cry when we're born. It's not an indication of weakness. It's an indication that you're alive."
Yeah.
And that sat with me.
Beautiful quote.
So
that's
now,
lovely. That
when I struggle, I'm just like, I remember the quote. I go put my playlist on and I just let it go.
I might put that on a T-shirt, to be honest.
Yeah.
Greg says, just say ADHD Greg at the bottom as a quote.
Love it.
Hey Greg, what's that quote?
What's been like the trickiest thing for you, Perry? That's been the hardest thing to get over that Greg did or does, or
the hardest thing was his shutdown, the disassociation, because I am the type of person that it doesn't matter what I'm thinking or feeling.
Yeah.
I see it on my face,
Yeah.
and it will come out of my mouth.
And does that bother you when you see someone's face change, especially someone you care about so much? Does you know what they're thinking before they've even said anything?
And that then, for me, that kicks in.
Then that's a trigger. Your RSD.
And so that was one of the things that we struggled with.
Yeah.
Because Greg started disassociating. I have abandonment issues.
Yeah, so you want to like pull him back.
Yeah, and so I held on too tight. And so that is one of those things. But now I think we've got to a point where you're able to recognise it in yourself, and instead of keeping it to yourself, you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good as well, because holding on to things, which just makes that bottle of pop even worse, because when you do explode or you do blow up, that's when everything comes out, I find anyway.
And then you're not yelling about what happened 5 minutes ago, you're yelling about what happened 5 months ago.
Yeah, which is weird because we have a shit memory, but we don't at the same time. We'll hold on to all the bad things, and then we're going, at this time you did this on this date, and it's like, how did I even remember that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, which makes our processing of trauma so much harder, because we don't remember all the things we like, but we remember the damn trauma, don't we?
Yeah.
Hold on to that.
It's always the negatives, isn't it?
I remember stuff when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need that. I've noticed that my disassociation, I can sort of see it coming now, because I'm such a talker and I love talking.
Yeah.
That when I can't get words out of my mouth, then I know I've got a problem. And now I start to go, okay, this is the early warning sign. Let me go and have a conversation with Perry. Let's see if we can process this.
Which is weird as well, because before you knew, I'm guessing you didn't even realise the triggers.
Not a clue.
And the triggers, obviously, they come on that quickly that it seems that it goes from 0 to 100 in like a split second. Whereas, do you know what? I'm noticing my triggers as well, and it doesn't. There's a build up of things. Yeah. And it's really weird now. You take a step back and you're like, right, I know what I've got. I know what my triggers are. This is the defining moment. Like when I'm really low and really down, I have that craving to get on drugs again. Yeah. And that's when I know, right, you're heading for either a burnout or you're feeling disassociated. You just want to numb yourself. You want to disappear from the world. So that's when I'm like, right, you need to go and do something. So I'm doing cold water therapy at the moment. Okay. And honestly, that doesn't half perk you up.
Really?
Yeah.
I've had a few people mention it, and my first thought is, no, thank you.
Honestly, like, I hate the cold. I hate being cold. Like, I'm feeling cold now. I just took my hoodie off. But when you're in that water, it's only like you only have to do it for like 3 to 5 minutes a day. But you feel warm. Oh. As long as you don't move, your body like warms itself up. But that raises your dopamine levels the same amount as cocaine does. Wow. But keeps going 2.5, 3 hours, whereas cocaine drops after 9 minutes. Yeah. And honestly, like, I cannot suggest it enough to people. And a bit of a insight, I've ordered a couple of cold tubs with the Attentive logo on, so I'm going to start selling them.
I've seen you can buy just the cold tubs.
Well, that's what they are. That's what they're going to be. But I'm going to sell them for a lot cheaper than anyone else sells them, because I can. And it's like, you realise how much these big companies are actually making off stuff, and I'm just like, I will obviously not get them as cheap as they will, because I won't buy the units they do, but it's just like, they're making a fortune.
Yeah, and that sort of scalps it away from people who might need it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't afford it. It's like, well, if you can't afford it, tough. And you're like, yeah, but some people actually need this.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the same with the Attentive clothing, like the hoodies and the jumpers and stuff. I could sell them for triple the price, and people would buy them, but I don't want to, because I want it to be an inclusive brand. I want it to be a luxury brand, but I also want it to be affordable for people. And that's the route I wanted to go down. Like, I've had all the designer makes, and it was me masking. Yeah. It was me trying to fit in with society, but really, people were looking at me going, look at that knobhead wearing all that stupidly expensive stuff.
Or people weren't even giving you a second thought.
They definitely were. They look at you worse when you're wearing stuff like that, rather than if you're wearing nothing. That's why.
But that's not who we are.
Because they judge you, because you're like, either, oh, you rich cunt, or you rich fucker. Or they're like, who's he trying to be? Like, he obviously isn't that well off, blah, blah, blah. So
I always wore cheap. But then I think because my family wasn't rich, we didn't value stuff like that. Yeah. So we used to get hand-me-downs, or we would get the cheap stuff from the cheap shops. Yeah. And funnily enough, most of my favourite clothes are from cheap places.
And do you know what? Most of the cheaper clothes are actually more comfortable.
Yeah. Mostly because they're not made with that like solid last forever material, but the funny thing
they don't last forever either.
Comfy. You're right.
They don't. Some of the most expensive clothes I've got, they literally shit quality. And I'm like, I can only say that now because I've got my own clothing brand, and I'm like, I literally spent £600 on a hoodie, and it's nowhere near as good as an Attentive one.
Yeah, screw that.
Yeah, it's like
I put this one on last night because I was feeling cold. Yeah. And I hadn't put it on yet. This is jumper. And I put it on, and I just went, oh, and it felt like I was being hugged by this. So I'd already ordered myself one of the blue ones, and that arrived yesterday.
Did it? Yeah.
Constant hug. So I've recommended all of it to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so comfy. Something that is, and it's meaningful as well, because you're wearing a logo which is meant to help people talk to each other, to make people feel included and inclusive. And it's a way of recognising other neurodivergence, because we do struggle to speak to others. And obviously, as you know now on your TikTok and stuff, speaking to other people and speaking about your problems really does help you. Yeah. And it releases all that, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. but it's hard to get started. And the thing is, like with this, like I bought one of the t-shirts because whenever somebody says this is going to work, this does this, it'll work. You know, I studied media and stuff. Advertising gets my back up. So then I bought it and put it on and was like, I don't think he's selling it enough. I don't think he's praising the function enough. And then after that first one, I think I bought 3 more, like the same day. Like, this is perfect. Like, I don't normally do logos, but then I saw this, and the way it feels is so comfortable. I'm like,
yeah, that's why I only wanted it small.
Yeah.
I looked around. Actually, it's a funny story. My ex, when I was in bed once, I saw a couple of clothing brands, and one of them was about having ADHD and stuff. And I'm not going to go into who they are, but I ordered a hoodie and it came and it was cheap. And I'm like, this is crap quality. It was like screen printed, so they probably haven't got stock. So I was like, no, I can. And I said to her, I was like, I want to start my own clothing brand. And she just sort of like, not laughed at me, but she went, let's pay some debts off first, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we split up a very soon while after that. And that's when I started Attentive, and that's when I started my boxing. And I just wanted to do things and put myself out of my comfort zone and do things I wanted to do for a very long time, but to better myself. So obviously that's when I came up with the logo, and I was like, right, because I knew what it was like to have designer clothes and stuff. I'm like, I want it sort of down that line, but I don't want it to be stupidly priced. And that's when I obviously got sent a couple of samples. These hoodies arrived, and I was like, yeah, that's amazing. So then obviously I was like, I only want the brain to be little, because I don't want I'm ADHD or whatever. I mean, it's no offense to anybody who wears stuff like that. It's up each to their own, but I'm not about that life.
Yeah. But it's sort of like almost like a secret club. It's got this nice sort of dopamine releasing moment where someone will go, I know who makes your t-shirt or whatever, and you're like, you're one of my people. And other people are like, I have no idea what's going on. But that's fine.
Big Attentive family.
Yeah. It's the same with this tattoo. Like, I got this tattoo for my favorite band, and a lot of people I know don't know who this is, but then I get comments on my TikTok going, it's a Coheed tattoo. I'm like, there we go. That's my people.
Has there been any make or break situations in your relationship?
Apart from that one.
There's been 2.
Oh, yeah.
We actually broke up
Didn't you? Because of symptoms to do with ADHD?
I think that it was a mix of probably that and
wrong soil.
So there was a lot of trauma, and that for Greg, the people that caused the trauma were still around.
Okay.
And so that didn't help him. So he disassociated from everybody and thought that he needed to just deal with it all on his own. Yeah. And so we broke up for 3 months. We then got back together, and since then it was fine.
It's been strong,
the car conversation that we call it.
The car conversation, yeah.
That happened about 3 months ago of just, we can't keep doing this.
No.
He wanted to run.
When we really analysed everything and realised you can't go back and recapture who you were. You need to go forward and evolve, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong.
And when you've had people around for a very long time, and they're your people, you think that they're your people. It's very hard to let go. But that's something I've learned. That I've literally probably got all my friends on one hand now.
Yeah.
And it's not who you know; it's the quality of the friends you've got.
But I think when I disassociated, I definitely forgot those people. I was too busy trying to figure out what to do with the people who give this consistent dopamine, but unfortunately consistent drama.
But when you're in that pullback situation as well, you don't feel like worthy of anyone's attention or anything, do you?
Yeah, that's the thing. The imposter syndrome gets so bad that you start to think that you're wasting everyone else's time.
Yeah, and you feel like a burden.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to try and move forward, sometimes we fall into that thing of, I don't like change, so what I want is to be who I was.
Yeah.
No,
because that person was in the past.
Yeah, you need to be who you can become.
Yeah.
I think that was a big one for me. I really struggled with that. But now I'm starting to understand it. Like, I'm starting to celebrate that I'm not the man I was 2, 3, 4 years ago.
And look at all the knowledge you've got and how you've moved forward, and look at the positive things you're doing on TikTok, and with everything that you're doing in your relationship and everything, you are becoming a better person. And obviously this person, you like being this person.
Yeah. I'm a fan of this one.
Which is mad, isn't it? Because we normally hate ourselves.
Well, it's the thing, you sort of look back and go, I definitely did hate myself a lot more than this. Now I'm like, hey, I'm all right.
Yeah, and you sort of just like, you become kinder to yourself, because it's like, I'm quite enjoying the person becoming.
And it's so important because, essentially, you're the only one who gets to hear the inside of your head.
Yeah.
So if you're not talking to yourself nicely, then no one else can hear that you're doing this to yourself.
No.
You do have people around you. You're not an island, but at the same time, in the quiet, silent moments, you're all you've got.
Yeah.
You got to be nicer to yourself because everyone else is asleep.
You've only got you forever.
Right?
Yeah. So when did you realise you had ADHD?
Literally going through.
Is it? Yeah.
I've had people ask me in the past because I'm outgoing and I'm active and I've always been told I'm weird. People have always said, "Oh, you're."
It's a horrible word, that, isn't it?
It is. I like the word quirky. I think that sounds nicer.
Like eccentric.
But going through this with Greg, he's like, "Yeah, you've got it." I'm like, "Really?" And then he's like, "We've learned more things." He's like, "Yeah, you've got that."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But with me, it's helped me go, okay.
Understand yourself a little bit more, yeah.
Whereas with Greg, obviously, there are certain things that you talk about the noise in your brain and the brain fog that's always there. I don't have that so much. I get brain foggy sometimes when I'm tired or very hungry.
Hungry's the worst one, isn't it? It is. I get really hangry.
Yeah, I do. And you call it bratty.
Yeah.
I get really over the top bratty, but I don't feel like I need to plug up the NHS or pay for it to be told that I've got it.
Yeah, because it doesn't. Yeah. And if it works for you two, obviously, we do attract other neurodivergents.
Yeah.
It's like a well-known fact because we just seem to get it. And but yeah, that's really good that you've like worked together. You've obviously had your ups and downs. Probably still will always have your ups and downs, but you know, it's not just the person; it's the surroundings and situations and stuff. Do you feel overwhelmed and stuff in like busy places and that? Yeah.
Depends on the place. I've noticed that if I'm at a rock festival,
but
I'm fine because
you're surrounded by everyone. Yeah.
Right? But in normal places, I don't like crowds for too long. I don't like a certain frequency of noise for too long.
No.
If I'm too hot, I'm alright. If I'm too cold, I get crabby. In fact, if my toes get cold, I'm done. I'm going home. I'm finished.
I forgot about your toes.
So I have these, obviously I bought the Attentive socks because they're thick, right? And I've got these thick boot socks.
How comfy are them socks though?
So good, right? I need to buy some more because I've only got one pair. But
we've run out of black at the moment. I'm waiting for a delivery.
I'll buy white, it's fine. But that's the thing because they keep my toes warm. We've had it before. I've gone out to
I've got them on now actually.
Of course. Obviously. I've gone out to like pubs and stuff with mates. No, I don't. My black one's in the wash. But like we've gone out and we're having fun and stuff. We're out in the field or whatever, like watching fireworks or whatever. And it'll get to like, whatever temperature, and I'll go, right, I'm gonna, because I was like, my feet are cold. I will get so angry if my feet are cold.
What do you do when you're like overstimulated and like overwhelmed in places? Do you sort of just like go inside yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So when was it? It was recently. We were out shopping somewhere. I walked into a shop and there were people everywhere. I was trying to find my eyebrow pencil.
That's the one. Yep.
Really simple.
It's Greg's really, isn't it?
I don't like shopping. If I can order it online, I will.
Yeah.
If I can't find it online, I have to go in with people. And I walked into the supermarket, whatever, and there were people everywhere. And I literally
just froze.
Tensed completely.
And I didn't buy the eyebrow pencil. So I walked out and Greg was like, "You're right."
Your cortisol levels would have gone through the roof then as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So your body's naturally stressed.
Yeah. And then it takes me quite a long time to then
come down.
That. And I go through like this weird thing where all my energy then will feel weird, and I feel weird energy, and so I've like punched the air and like.
I find that when you get like that, when yours spikes, even if mine's on its way too, mine drops because I now have a goal and I can look after you.
That's because we're really good at in like chaos situations. So if you see someone we care about, we switch on.
The crisis. You just instantly like.
But then that can drain us afterwards as well because you're like, fuck, that drained me probably worse than the person was feeling.
Yeah. Nice.
What do you do to calm down? Have you found anything that works?
Yeah, I've got a few of my different art projects.
Okay, yeah.
If someone's not an artist, I'll always suggest doodling.
Yeah.
Because you're having to concentrate.
I'd just draw penises, you know that.
Fabulous. Does that help you?
I would. I don't know why that's.
I can't even draw.
I don't even know if kids nowadays draw penises, but I would literally just draw a page full of penises.
I never understood the obsession with boys drawing penises.
Why don't we draw boobs? I don't know. It's just funny, isn't it? A penis.
It is a funny looking thing, isn't it?
I mean, you're drawing the balls anyway. You might as well draw 2 nipples, but now we have to draw a sausage as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Squirting. You know.
Oh, it has to have, yeah, and a little puddle, and it's got to have veins and pubes.
Yeah. That's when you know someone was going to be an artist one day. Yeah. When they did the detail.
You want to see one of the lads in my work? He's really good at drawing. He draws penises with legs and everything, like running after people. Yeah, it's amazing, amazing.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that. I don't draw anything, but that really tickled me. I enjoyed that.
So, if what would you say to anybody who's going through the diagnosis or have just been diagnosed and are really struggling to because you sort of go through a bit of a grieving period. I know I did. Did you get diagnosed over here as well?
No, I'm working through that.
You're working through that now? Which is mad, isn't it? Because it's you've been diagnosed twice.
Yeah, but a 30-year-old diagnosis in Johannesburg is apparently not good enough. So I got to start the whole process again. My doctor knows I have ADHD, but he has to put me on a list, and I got to go. So you
haven't got any medication or anything? Do you think you will go on it?
I think I'd like to try it because
just not Ritalin.
Because I can't, in good conscience, say that I am trying if I don't try everything. But I've had a bad experience with medication for other things in the past, so I'm concerned, but at the same time, I'm still going to try it. I'm still going to go and do it. It could completely change me. It could turn out to not be what I need, but I won't know that unless I try.
Yeah, that's one of the misconceptions I always thought, because I've done SSRIs, which completely change, can change who I was, become lazy, but I put on 4 stone. So now I'm on Elvance, which is 70 milligrams a day, which is a stimulant, but I'm also on, what's it called, venlafaxine, which is an SNRI, which helps with my mood regulation, because I got diagnosed with BPD, and honestly, I think my brain's really susceptible to medication, because the day I took it, I was chilled. I'm so chilled out. It's ridiculous.
Instantly.
Well, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to take a month to kick into your system, but my brain is so...
It's probably starving for that chemical.
Yeah, so it's really, really helping. There's a few side effects which I could do without, but...
Everything has side effects.
Yeah, I've never had a problem sleeping, but I sleep for fucking England now.
Oh, wow.
It just completely things still bother me, things still annoy me, but I want to go on that.
Where do I get one of those?
Let's go and get one and ride around the park.
The goal in life is to be that happy.
Yeah.
That's impossible. I'd love to be that happy as a kid.
So what do you have to say to people?
Yeah, sorry. What?
So if you're going through that process, you got to be ready for certain things like the grief. You are grieving the person you were, and you are grieving the person you could have been had you known sooner. And I get that, I do.
Yeah.
But I think it is a wonderful experience to get to know your own brain better
and to find you.
Yeah,
because you really do.
You find who you really are,
and you find out how you tick and what makes you you.
Yeah. And
it's mad.
Worth it.
I think there comes a lot of stress with it, but it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Because coming out of where you are learning about yourself, and it's beautiful to see you being just authentically you all the time.
And to be able to do that easily now is wonderful, because I've pulled the mask off for the most part.
Yeah.
And not having that mask is actually a gift.
To
just be yourself.
You don't stress about it.
It also recalibrates your life, because if you're being your authentic self comfortably and happily, you start to see who's with you and who isn't. But you also learn, if they aren't with you, you don't need to worry about pleasing people who are not there for you.
No.
All right, see ya. I'll stick with my folks.
So what would you say to people who are with someone who's either been diagnosed with ADHD or is struggling to come to terms with or any of the symptoms that people with ADHD? What would you say?
Patience is a big one, and open communication. I will say until the day I die, communication is key to any part of this journey, whether you are all the way out of it or just starting it. You know, if you're able to have those difficult conversations and it hurts, but you keep going, that being open and honest, you'll learn about yourself. Even if you don't have ADHD, you'll learn about yourself through that journey. Yeah,
and it's how supportive you can be as well. You don't have to put up with the shit, but there's means and there's reasons to why we react or to certain situations. Like if we do get angry or we do disassociate, it's learning about that person. Like, it's not all a one-way street. It's learning what both your triggers are and stuff, and working together. Because yes, we've spent 30 years not knowing what's wrong with us, and we've had to fit into society, but it sort of takes someone to come, I'll meet you halfway, I'll meet you halfway. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not going to be able to change how our brain is.
No.
But we can learn and understand it, which will help in the long run.
Yeah.
And to process your triggers, and to process how you are, and to avoid situations and stuff.
And I think with stuff like that, especially with relationships with neurodivergence, a healthy dollop of forgiveness will go a long way. And not just forgiving the neurodivergent, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't know, and now you're knowing, and that's great. But you got to forgive the times where you didn't know. You can't hold on to all of your mistakes forever, because most of the time, most of your mistakes were not that bad. No. And you can sort of forgive that and move forward. Because if you keep holding on to it, you'll never grow.
No.